Hello, my name is Joanna Bagniewska and I will today talk to you about interspecific cooperation. And this short lecture has two learning outcomes. The first one is to describe the ways in which organisms from different species interact in a positive way. And the second is to explain the benefits of these interactions to both of the organisms. Last week you've had a lecture from Nick on different types of interspecific interactions, where you've looked at interactions within particular populations, so intraspecific, both positive and negative, and you've also had a look at the interactions between different species, so interspecific. And you focused on the negative ones, but today I would like to mention the positive ones. So we'll focus on this aspect of this chart here. So to start with these positive interspecific interactions, we have commensalism. And commensalism comes from the Latin words com, together, and mensa, table, and it literally means eating at the same table. And this sort of interaction is one where one organism gains something, benefits from it, but the other one is unaffected. So there's no positive or no negative effects on that second organism. So only one side benefits. And this sort of interspecific interaction can be based around different factors such as foraging or habitat usage, where different species live, transport, etc. And sometimes a combination of the above. So one example would be that of the large copper dung beetle, very appetizing. Commensalism, eating at the same table, maybe not quite. This dung beetle feeds on the dung of large herbivores such as elephants or rhinos or giraffes. And so there's a very clear benefit to the dung beetle, but the large herbivores are not affected. They will produce dung regardless of whether the dung beetle makes use of it or not. Another example of commensalism is our favorite species, the barnacle attached to a whale. So a barnacle is a sessile species. It does not move of its own accord, but by growing on a whale, by attaching itself to a whale, it is able to travel quite a lot and benefit from different types of environment that it might encounter. A whale does not mind having barnacles on it. It does not seem to benefit largely from these barnacles, but it also doesn't lose out. And a particular type of commensalism is pheresis. Pheresis or pheresy is a method of dispersal of different organisms. So it's basically organisms hitching a lift. And here we have an example of a pseudoscorpion, which is this little guy here, hitching a ride on a fly. So a smaller organism will attach itself to a slightly larger one, it will get to where it wants to get to, and then it will drop off. So it's getting a free ride. The larger organism is not massively affected by it, but it doesn't gain anything in return either. So commensalism. One side gains and the other side is unaffected. Nice and simple. Our second positive interspecific interaction is mutualism. And this is one where both of the species benefit in one way or another. And this can be a very strict relationship where two organisms can't survive without each other, or facultative or optional. And in that case, it's also known as proto-cooperation. I find the second one a bit more interesting because there's this element of voluntary, opportunistic relationship. And some of the examples that you can encounter involve exchanging services for resources, but there are also some where species exchange services for services. How does that work? Well, when you exchange a service for a resource, one example you can think of is the red-billed oxpecker, so a small bird that will sit on large herbivores and clean them. So in this case, on this picture, you can see an impala and a red-billed oxpecker, and the oxpecker will pick, for instance, ticks or insects or dead skin or all sorts of other bits and pieces of the impala that might not want in the first place. So the resource here is the food for the oxpecker, so the invertebrates and also bits of the skin and dandruff and equally yummy things. That's the resource, and the service on the impala's side is that it's getting cleaner and cleaner from the oxpecker. So the oxpecker provides the service, the impala provides the resource. But additionally, the oxpecker also provides predator warning. So when it sees a predator, it's likely to give a call, and the impala gets an extra bit of warning in case it was not paying attention. And this sort of service for resource interaction based around cleaning can be seen in all sorts of setups, also in the sea with cleaning wrasses, but also in a mammal-to-mammal scenario with warthogs and banded mongooses. And I wanted to show you a little video of that. Here it is.
Warthogs are a common sight around these parts, and they're not to be messed with. Their tusks are formidable bits of hardware used to fend off attacks by predators such as lions and also fight between each other. They are very powerful pigs in these parts, a power that shouldn't be underestimated. An adult male warthog deliberately walks up to the banded brothers. The mob stand their ground. A mongoose could be seriously hurt with just one swipe of the warthog's tusks, and even a simple injury could spell the end of any mongoose. Still, they boldly head straight for it. As it turns out, they run a bit of a racket with the local warthogs on the way up. It's a cleaning racket. By allowing the mongoose to climb all over its body, the warthog has its ticks removed, and the mongoose gets a protein-rich meal. Although the family do have to watch out for 100 kilos of falling pig every now and again. This is a unique symbiotic relationship between two mammal species, and one which benefits both parties. The banded brothers make pretty quick work of their cleaning duties. Eventually, the warthog checks out of the mongoose spa.
So that was service for resource, but then we can also look at service for service, and something that has made the rounds in the media recently was the relationship between a coyote and an American badger. And there's a video from the Peninsula Open Space Trust in North America which showed a beautiful interaction between these two species. And I'll show it to you in a second. But just as a bit of background, the idea here is that each of the species works to its advantage. Both of them will hunt small rodents, such as prairie dogs, and the coyote normally will chase its prey around the open fields, whilst the badger will chase it if it goes underground. So both of the species can use their own hunting strategy, and when they couple it, they get really good results, because the coyote will flush out the prey from bushes, let's say, and if it goes underground, it will be the badger that gets it then. So both species can benefit in that respect. And let me show you this really cool video of the badger and the coyote using an underpass together. And off they trot. This little movie clip became quite viral a few weeks ago, but the relationship between a badger and a coyote, where they hunt together, has been observed and described way earlier. So in fact, this is a paper from 1884, just a quick note so you can take a look at this in your spare time. Curious companionship of the coyote and the badger. So over 100 years ago, people have observed this and written about it in scientific papers, which is great. But in fact, it was actually observed in pre-Columbian America, though not published in a scientific paper. But you might think that it's just the higher vertebrates that collaborate with each other. That's not the case, though. There was a paper published in 2006 which describes groupers and moray eels that hunt cooperatively for reef fish in the Red Sea. And this is the paper, and over here you have a grouper, and over here you have the moray. And the principle is very similar to that of the coyote and the badger. So the grouper hunts in open waters, and it will flush out all the little reef fish, and they will hide from the grouper in the coral reef and in the rocks. And so the grouper can no longer access them. So it will go and signal to the moray eel that it needs help. And it does so in a very specific way. It will shake its head right in front of the moray. And sometimes if it sees a group of fish that are hiding in a particular place, it will go and do this kind of headstand above that site and twitch a little bit. And then that gets the moray's attention. The moray will come. The morays normally hunt by cornering reef fish in the coral reefs and in the rocks. So the reef fish will normally go back into the open water to escape the moray, which is obviously where the grouper can get them. So again, they play to their own strengths. So the grouper, a good hunter in open water, the moray, a good hunter in the coral reefs. And they are able to work together very nicely to gain advantage in hunting in this scenario. But it's not even just these two types of fish. This sort of gesturing and signaling in collaborative hunting also works for invertebrates. So sometimes octopuses, such as this one, are interested by the gestures of the coral trouts and the groupers, and sometimes Napoleon wrasses will also take part in this hunt. And I was so amazed by this collaborative ability of groupers. And just the fact that you have such, seemingly primitive species going and hunting together and being so good at it, that I couldn't help but rewrite the ABBA song from Super Trooper to Super Grouper. And cheesy as it sounds, I have a friend who has an a cappella quartet, and she recorded it for me, and it's the best thing ever, clearly. I was able to illustrate the song with the videos from this paper because it has 4 amazing little videos, and the effect is right here. So here goes, get ready.
Super grouper boys are gonna find me the moray. And it's so I feel I will join them for a meal. Interspecific hunting is coordinated. Grouper shakes his head. Moray go ahead. Both the species and the fed.
There you go. That's it from me. I mean, how amazing was the footage of the grouper and the moray swimming off together in the distance? I think that's my favourite thing of all time. But pleasure talking to you, and enjoy interspecific interactions.